Welcome back, everybody. SF Live, episode 92. This time I'm joined by Taruga Minerals, and I'll be joined by Thomas Line in a couple seconds. It's an ASX special. We do them in the afternoon because Thomas is in Australia, so it makes sense to do it early morning his time. And we'll be joined in a couple seconds, but please be reminded, this is an interactive format. SF Live is for the audience, it's for the Twitter users, and of course afterwards for YouTube as well, but this is live, so please make sure to use hashtag AskTAR for your questions here on Twitter, and we'll get to the questions at the end. We already got a couple in here on Twitter, so you can search the hashtag as well to see the questions that we'll be asking Thomas later as well. And follow us, of course, here on YouTube, follow us on Twitter. We're going to upload this conversation also to Spotify, Instagram, and other podcast channels, so make sure to follow us, give us a like, and let us know what you think. But that's me babbling on. Let's switch over to Mr. Thomas Line. Thomas, thanks for joining us. Happy Friday to you. Not Friday yet here in Vancouver. I hope you're well. How are things?
Hi, Kai. Thanks a lot, and I appreciate you accommodating a decent time zone for me here in Australia. As you know, I've got a almost 5-week-old baby, so picking the right time is ideal. So I appreciate that.
You must have
things going really well.
You must have told a lot of people about your kid during recent conferences, because we've had a couple inquiries to ask you how your kid is doing, and I'm not sure if you've been haggard at all during the conferences or whether it was visible that you had a kid, but I hope all is well. She's doing all right.
Yeah, she's doing great. Look, I put a post up on LinkedIn and on Twitter just to let people know why I was a little bit AWOL for a couple of, a week or two. As you know, it's quite intense, going to the hospital leading up to it and then the first week or two. So, the purpose of that was, one, to let people know I'm a human being with a family, and two, to let people know why I've been a little bit quiet on the scene for a week or two.
Fantastic, because there's so many things going on. You don't want people get the wrong idea that you might have caught the virus or anything else. So
exactly.
Fantastic. Let's actually stay on that topic for 1 second. Oh, no, different. We're going to do it differently. I want you to introduce Taruga real quick, 30, 60 seconds. Then we're going to dive a little deeper. I'm going to come back to what I thought about asking. So give us a quick rundown. A, Taruga, and B, Thomas Line.
Sure. So Taruga is an exploration and resource development company focused on developing high-grade near-surface ISCG projects in South Australia. We've currently got 3 projects. We've got the Flinders project, which is 647 square kilometres, the Torrens project, which joins that to the north, which is 818 square kilometres, and then the Mount Craig copper project. In total, we've got almost 2,000 square kilometres of highly prospective base and precious metal projects in South Australia, and we're working on those right now with a current core focus on the Flinders project.
Fantastic. And give us a little background on yourself as well, because the history of you joining the company is actually quite interesting, and that leads us directly to the project as well. So give us a background info there.
Sure. So I'm a geologist. I've worked in mining and exploration for almost 10 years. All of that has been basically in the Gawler Craton in South Australia, mainly focused in iron ore exploration, some copper and gold exploration as well. My last job was the senior exploration geologist for CIMEC Mining. And I founded Strikeline Resources while I was working with CIMEC Mining in 2019, and I picked up the EL6362, which is the Flinders project now. So Taruga in May 2020, came in with the option agreement to acquire 100% of Strikeline Resources Flinders project. And since then, we've added to that the Torrens project and the Mount Craig copper project. So really, we've got, with no change of the terms of the original option agreement. So that's almost 2,000 square kilometres and 3 major projects, and basically 100% of Strikeline Resources being in the option. And a couple of months into that, I was working as the exploration manager. Taruga decided to appoint me CEO to lead the projects in South Australia.
Fantastic. You must have left a good impression there. That's awesome. And with Strikeline as well, is that a private company, or are you running it? Is that your private vehicle? Because we had a bit of a pre-chat, and I was going over the top 20 shareholders, and for now it explains why you're not one of them, as you're not one of the founders of the company. But give us a little more color there as well.
Sure. So yeah, Strikeline Resources is a private company founded by me as the original sole director in 2019. Still a private company. So if the option agreement is exercised, then that will go through to Strikeline Resources in a payment in shares from Taruga.
Okay, and let's fantasize a little bit. Let's say the option gets exercised, everything goes well. You as the only shareholder in Strikeline will become the shareholder in Taruga as well. Is that correct?
Correct, that's right. So it's in my best interest to make sure this goes well for Taruga. absolutely, and that's how it basically works out. It's all based on project success.
Fantastic. One last thing, and I talked to you about that in the pre-chat as well. Like, it's kind of unique that the project vendor is also the CEO of the project. So how does that look internally? Like, what's the decision making like there?
Yeah, that's right. So they're two completely separate things. I'm working with Taruga as a CEO. I take a back seat in Strikeline, and really, all of Strikeline's projects are wrapped up in Taruga. So it's a bit of a holy unity there, I suppose you could say. In terms of the exercise of the option, I have absolutely no say in that whatsoever. I'm not a director on the Taruga board. That's a decision for the directors to make, and any discussions on that matter, I step out of the room.
Fantastic.
So my job is really, run the operations of the company and the projects as well.
Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense. And you recently raised $4 million. So the kitty is sitting around $6 million. Give us a little more insight into your shareholders, like who participated, where did the interest come from?
Yeah, so we were heavily oversubscribed, which was good. And we really only accepted bids from strategic partners and people we felt aligned really well with the core focus of Taruga. We pulled back, so we had to cut back because we could have raised more than $4 million if we wanted to. We didn't think it was necessary. There's no need to have added any to have taken more money at that point. It really is just given us a lot of options to be able to move it, do whatever. Whatever doors open up, we've got a lot of options now. So coming into the drilling program, it means that if we get onto something, we can expand quite quickly and we can really move in any direction we need to. So we had some pretty good institutional and high net worth private investors come in mainly, and we're really happy with the book that we ended up with, which was a selective book.
Fantastic. Besides yourself, like how much does management own, or did you guys participate in the current round?
Yeah, so management holds weren't able to actually participate in the current run just based on the status and current rules. However, did participate in the initial cap raising and currently hold over 10%. I would say in the company.
Yeah, fantastic. Because the top 20 shareholders, you guys own over 60% in total, like almost 62%, which is a very high number. That's very supportive.
It's a tightly held stock. Yeah, it's quite tightly held.
Fantastic. And any foray into Europe or North America yet? Like, are we the first outlet you're having a conversation with?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, you guys are the first.
Fantastic. And I seem so stiff here. This is a podcast. We're not a news station or something. So I need to relax a little bit. And no, this is great. Let's dive a little deeper into the projects, because you're doing some work on Flinders right now, the ICG project. You hinted at it, but who are your neighbours? Like, give us a little more insight into the area. The question I want to ask at the beginning was, you're in Perth, correct? I forgot to ask that.
I'm in Sydney.
Sydney. Okay, that's why this time makes a lot more sense. I was wondering, because otherwise it'd be 5 a.m. or something in Perth. So
that's right.
But still, similar question actually. How are you able to travel to site?
Yeah, absolutely. I just came back from site. I spent 9 days down there last week. I came back 2 days ago. So the border between New South Wales and South Australia is completely open. There's no real restrictions there at all. So we two of my geos are from Sydney based, and another one in South Australia, the senior geologist, South Australian based. And even when there were some restrictions, there's a really good setup in South Australia. The government supports exploration and mining, so there are exemptions for explorers and miners. I suppose you call them essential workers or remote and isolated workers, where you can still come through without quarantine procedures.
Fantastic. And did you attend Diggers and Dealers recently?
Oh, I did not. No. See, there is a challenge with people from Sydney going to Perth.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what was stuck in my head, that you can't travel that freely just yet. So, yeah. But let's zone in on Flinders. Let's zone in on your most interesting project there right now that you're doing a lot of work on. Run us through what you're doing on site right now and your latest findings as well.
Sure. So at the moment on site, we've done all of our systematic exploration program, and the intention of that was to build really strong targets to run the air core program, which we followed by a diamond and RC. Right now, where we stand is we're in the middle of the air core program, which is basically a shallow air core program, which is covering a large amount of ground. It's a cheap method of drilling that allows us to cover a long strike and a cross strike quite easily, and gives us all the information required to follow up with that precision RC and diamond drilling.
Okay, so you recently commenced that program, right? That's on the Metabase and Woolshed target.
That's correct.
How far are you into the program right now? How many air core holes have you drilled so far? And I've read about the XRF, and a lot of people want to know about the XRF and what it's telling you. So let's give us some. Let us hear it. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I'm sure. Everyone wants to know the XRF results. There are certain things which have to come out through the standard channels, and I have to really leave the specifics of the program and those details to updates which will come out through the ASX.
Okay. So, but you can't tell us like how many holes are complete or anything. That's good.
Yeah, that'll form part of the package of the release, which will come out as an update to all shareholders through the normal channels. But the program's going well. We're happy with the rig performance, and we are using an XRF on site. So the purpose of the XRF is, one, it's quite good for identifying copper. It's got a relatively good accuracy, variable on other elements and precious metals sometimes depending on the unit you've got. The key point with the XRF is to help the geologists make real-time decisions in the field as we're drilling, so we can make adjustments and we're not just running blind. Of course, there are things that can be identified theoretically visibly, such as sulfides, copper oxides, magnetite, hematite, and other styles of alteration. So that can be visually picked up, but the XRF gives us a kind of analytical technique to identify what copper is associated with that, because it's not always visible in its powder chip form.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, and like I'm used to like more. I'm often talking to TSX or venture listed or CSE listed companies more here out in North America, and they have no problem saying, "Oh, we're on hole 12 out of 80, and we got 6 holes in the lab right now." But instead of asking you how many holes you have in the lab right now, what's the lab situation in Australia right now? Like, of course, I'm sure with the higher gold price, I'm sure you've seen a little more activity in general in the area. Or copper price is spiking now; it's 315, I think, today. I'm sure there's a lot more interest in IOCG targets or in general in your area. So what's the lab situation like there?
Sure. Well, first of all, we are progressively dispatching samples to the lab. So every couple of days, we will send a dispatch to the lab, and that work has commenced. I can confirm that. We've got a quite good relationship with the lab in South Australia, which is Bureau Veritas at the moment. They have an on-site analysis and processing facility right there. So we expect turnaround time should be quite good. And as I said, we've got a really good relationship with them. So we're in a good position for good turnaround times, and there isn't really any bottlenecking that we expect to see over the next couple of months.
What's good turnaround time for you? Is that 2 weeks, 10 days, 8 days, 3 weeks?
Yeah, look, standard turnaround time is normally around 3 weeks. Anything that can come in faster than that is what I would call good turnaround time. You can pay to have things sped up in certain labs, but it can be quite expensive. So it's best to just try and streamline the process so you get your standard cost sample coming back a little bit faster. And the people we work with really help us to make sure that happens.
Fantastic. I watched one of your videos recently, or just the one video in your YouTube channel where you sort of talk about what you've learned recently and how your initial holes sort of missed the anomalies that you identified through, what was it, IP survey? Was it?
No, so that's a government aeromagnetic survey, which was reprocessed by Southern Geoscience. And this company called Desert Stone came through and they drilled 2 shallow holes, and they were right next to each other. So the first hole intersected altered mafic breccias with hematite and magnetite alteration and visible sulfides. And then they walked 50 meters to the west and drilled another hole to the same depth. Now, what our magnetic and gravity inversion modeling has shown, which they never had at that time, is that not only did they miss the modeled magnetic core, but they also missed the gravity anomaly, which is modeled to extend in and become semi-coincident with that magnetic core. So it's really good for us to be able to visualize these things in 3D and see what they missed. The style of alteration they hit is extremely exciting, and I think anyone now would know, would look at that and say, okay, you're in an alteration system, for sure. And this is very interesting. People drill very deep holes to try and hit stuff like this further west in the Gawler Craton. We have stuff like this outcropping, but we also have seen it now at depth in areas which are under shallow cover, and we're seeing this style of alteration associated with mineralization over more than 15 kilometers at Flinders in multiple prospects. And that's what our work now is really looking to test, is our size scale connectivity and really what's happening when we try and nail some of these anomalies that were missed.
Fantastic. Preparing for our chat here, is like I stumbled across the term semi-coincident. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like for me, that's like an oxymoron. That just doesn't fit, or it's just right. It's either coincident or it's not coincident. So can you explain that? I mean, hopefully I'm not the only one who stumbles over it when they hear it.
Yeah, it can be confusing. I suppose the point is to not confuse people. When we say coincident, often we mean, the gravity and magnetic are kind of perfectly over one another. However, if you look at something like Carrapateena, it's textbook semi-coincident, where there is an offset between the magnetic and the gravity anomaly. However, they are partly overlapped. So that's what semi-coincident means. You can also have situations where the gravity and magnetic are, I suppose you could use the term semi-coincident, or I like to say intimately related, where that one hugs the other. So you've got a magnetic anomaly which has a unique shape, and you've got a gravity anomaly which perfectly wraps around that, therefore indicating that they, while they're not over the top of each other, they must be related.
Okay. Gotcha. Appreciate the clarification there. As you probably know, I'm not a geo or engineer, so that helps a lot. So you're doing the air core drilling. Have you done any RC drilling yet? Like, at what stage will you bring RC to that table?
No, so the RC diamond rig, it's a universal rig, it's waiting. And what we basically plan to do is complete the air core program. So we've always intended to run a systematic program. That means starting and finishing a particular style of exploration, a layer of exploration before moving on to the next. Now, with the air core, it allows us to cover a large amount of ground and collect data over a large area before bringing the precision drilling in with the RC diamond rig. So definitely the plan at the moment is to finish the air core first and then swing that rig in using the data we've collected to really nail those precision holes.
Fantastic. You sort of hinted at it. I just want to clarify sort of timeline. And for us as investors, huge catalyst obviously is drill results. And you said you've been batching or sending samples to the lab already. When can we expect the first results? So you said good turnaround time is around 3 weeks. So maybe another 10 days or so? I'm just speculating there.
Well, so you've got return of results, then you've got interpretation of results as well. And you also want to release completed data. So you want to make sure you've got a package. You know, as you understand, we do, you know, you drill holes and you do dispatches, but you don't just want to release hole by hole. You know, you need a package of data which has been interpreted to release to the market so it makes sense. And that's the intention. So at which point we decide to make that release, and how many of those releases will happen progressively throughout, will determine that as the results start coming in.
Fantastic. That's what I wanted to hear, because that makes a lot of sense, right? Just putting one air core hole out just doesn't make any sense for any investor, because it doesn't tell you anything, because you can't put it in context with what is happening around it. So fantastic.
And we also have flexibility in the program as well. So if we need to add holes or whatever, we can do that.
Yeah. And I'm switching around a bit because I've read the questions that came in on Twitter beforehand, so I might be giving a couple of those away. Maybe let's switch over to Twitter real quick, and that way I'm not missing anything, and might as well ask the appropriate questions. And Mining Dawn is asking on Twitter, and I hope everybody can read that. And yeah, it's popping up. Is asking, air core drilling to 80 meters is very shallow. What can we expect from this drill campaign?
Yeah, so from this drill campaign, it is shallow drilling, but the intention is to cover a large amount of ground, and anomalism comes to the surface. So, from things that are quite shallow. So, what we're looking to identify is shallow mineralization, and we're also looking to identify vectors toward other bodies. So, this program is intended to give us all that information required. One, to inform our precision drilling, and two, to identify any shallow mineralization which is in that upper level.
Fantastic. I think we've pretty much answered the other questions. Pete Panda was asking, how's your kid doing? That was the first one we got out of the way. And then the second one, how's the AC going? Of course, we talked about it, and the depth and any RC holes yet. So we talked about the RC rig coming in after the AC is done. Perfect. Let's talk about budget for the rest of the year and for 2021. So you got roughly, we said $6 million in the bank. How much are you spending on AC drilling? What's RC going to cost, assays, and all of that stuff?
Yeah, so it's really going to depend on how many meters we end up doing at the end of the program. But we kind of expect this initial program should be under 500K, I suppose, and it really depends on how much diamond and RC we end up doing. So I can't put a stamp on that and say it's exactly, because as I said, this is a dynamic program, and it's going to change as results come through, and it may expand. So we really need to have that flexibility in there and not get and allow that flexibility. So I mean, there's no real clarity on how long the program will last and how many meters we'll end up doing at the end.
Fantastic.
I suppose.
Fantastic. One question, like maybe one of my final questions, is like, how much does AC actually cost per meter? It's usually much cheaper than RC or even diamond. Do you have an indication for us?
Yeah, so air core can be anywhere from kind of under half to just over half the cost of RC drilling, and then diamond is a multiple of the cost of RC drilling, depending on what kind of contract you're able to negotiate. We're really happy with what we've negotiated. We think it's quite good. It's definitely market competitive.
You're showing
and hence doing the air core, as the bulk meters in the beginning. It is a lot cheaper.
Fantastic. Thomas, what have I missed asking you about Flinders? Like, what else should we mention? And maybe run us down through some next catalysts. We sort of summarized it already, but maybe to put a bow around it, because we are at the end of our time here.
Sure. What haven't you asked me about Flinders? That's a good question. I suppose, it's we could go into more detail about what's happening, the connectivity between what we see on the surface of the different targets. I mean, we've seen at the surface that the magnetite has anomalous copper, gold, and silver in it. We know there are large magnetic anomalies associated with the mineralization we're seeing at surface, and we're looking to test those things. And now we've identified from our recent stuff there's gravity anomalies which are related to those as well. So really, this is a very appealing and exciting set of exploration targets, and we're enjoying learning more and more about them.
Fantastic. Are you happy with the size of the ground you have? Are you looking for additional? Are you seeing something that leads you maybe to expand the resource area, or not the resource area, but your property area?
So we've got almost 2,000 square kilometers. It's a large amount of ground. We're always going to keep our eyes open as we learn things in the proprietary information that we learn as an exploration team. Of course, we reserve the right to use that to identify other prospective ground in the region. And if we identify, there's no doors are closed.
Fantastic. I'm trying to set you up for failure here and saying the wrong things, right? So don't take that the wrong way. Thomas, I really appreciate you joining us. I think we talked about the catalysts. Maybe you can sum them up in 10 seconds for us. Next steps, what can investors expect from you?
Okay, well, next step should be, expect to see a result announcement come out for air core drilling, and with that will be associated a plan for the RC and diamond drilling coming up.
Fantastic. Perfect. Thomas, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. And of course, happy Friday. For you, thank God it's Friday. For me, it's tomorrow. So can't wait. And everybody else, thanks for your questions. Really appreciate you asking them. Make sure to keep them coming for every interview we're doing. This is an interactive format. This is for you, the listener. And really appreciate that. Make sure to follow us here on Twitter. Hit the alert button. Same on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button as well. That way you get notified when we upload another video. Also follow us Spotify, Instagram, and any other podcasting platform. Thomas, really appreciate it. You have a great weekend, and we're going to talk very soon.
Likewise. Thanks, Guy.